Do I
Dang.
look okay, everyone? Do I look okay?
Well, I
You need a
started
little more
recording. I'm
bounce.
leaving that in.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, that's really important to me, as you, I'm sure, know.
All
I
right.
am recording.
Oh, all right.
All right.
All right. Welcome, everyone. It is once again Sunday. We are back with RPM, the Red Peace Machine. I see we have someone labeled Scruffy today. What is the story behind that? Why are we Scruffy and not Susie today?
I assume that I'm scruffy every day because I got an online comment from a young man. I'm assuming he's young, a white man who didn't like my appearance. He apparently listened to our entire show all the way through and said, interesting discussion, but the woman up in the left corner hasn't brushed her hair in a month or something like this. I called my stylist and she was like, that's how we cut it. And I was like, I know. But this douchebag over here who just listened to us talk for an hour and 8 minutes thinks that's the most important thing to talk about. So I'm leaning in. And that's what's going on with me. Thank
All
you.
right. We
And,
are
and my
reclaiming
scruffy
Scruffy.
is feminist solidarity. I'm right there.
And then my Scruffy is actual Scruffy, not actual Scruffy going on. But it makes me remember Antonin Scalia when he talked about flag burning. So
Tell us more, Roy.
Dang.
What a natural transition.
So Antonin Scalia had to vote on flag burning. And basically, in a nutshell, he said, yeah, in principle, I think you should be able to burn the flag as a First Amendment freedom of speech issue. But then he goes on to say, but, and now I'm quoting, if it were up to me, I would put every sandal-wearing, scruffy, bearded weirdo who burns the American flag. And then I think he said in jail, but they got left out of the quote somehow, but I'm not king.
Oh, God.
At which point, I'm sure this is the face he made.
You're right. Well, I feel that I'm scruffy, but I'm working on the beard.
Yeah.
It's just not growing in.
Yeah.
Dang.
May I just say, my sister, you look hot, you look good, you look wonderful, you look you, and
That's
I love
the
it.
most important. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. I am so not looking for that, but thank you. I appreciate it. I just, my point is, who gives a fuck what I look like?
Do the news. Right.
I'm sorry, that was part of the news.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That's just another show of misogyny and you know, whatever. Okay, dude, if that's what you got, that's what you got.
So how have y'all been feeling this past week? I know we left off last week on a bit of a cliffhanger, right? Is it going to play out violently or not? Are we going to have a smooth transition or not? What's going to happen? But we had, something like a beautiful inauguration from what I hear on social media. I didn't tune in. I didn't feel that jazz to like spend that amount of my day watching it. I don't know.
I didn't
A live TV event, but I heard it was awesome, and I heard something about poetry. So someone catch me up. How was the inauguration for y'all? What came up? All of that.
So besides me and Banafsha, I think, did anybody else watch it all the way through? Okay, so there's 3 of us who did. Okay. Do you want to start? Sorta.
I thought it was great. It was really nice to see, what I had hoped to see and not what we were all terrified to see. The poem and the young poet laureate were absolutely stunning to me. I thought it was great. I was very happy at the end of it. I felt peaceful. And then only later did I discover that the QAnon people were upset because nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then I found out that the thing they wanted to happen was not blowing up the Capitol. It was to watch pedophiles be rounded up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biden was supposed to be arrested or something, right?
No, basically, the entire Democratic Party was going to be mass arrested by Trump.
Is this for the same like child sex ring that operates around the pizza
Yes.
shop?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then what would happen is
That's a throwback to season 1 of the presidency.
Ah,
and then we would just have a second Trump term, and they actually, honest to God, thought this was going to happen. And when it didn't happen, a bunch of them have quit the movement. The movement is one of the top ringleaders said, "Yeah, that's it. Go back to normal, people. There's nothing here."
Yep. And they are really lost. They don't
Talk
know
about
what
cult.
to do.
Oh wow.
So are those the people we try to get on our side that have finally said this is insane?
I mean, on the unity talk, right? We're supposed to, but I don't see how that happens because it's like
Well, not the
how
ones who stayed.
Stayed in QAnon or
No, yeah, the ones I'm thinking about are the ones who are not in Q anymore, who've kind of realized that this is crazy. Are they going to be Republicans? Is there an outreach we can do to those people instead of? I mean, I don't want to.
I mean, I don't know what happens when you're a cult member and you quit a cult. Like I watched Wild Wild Country. That was a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, just unbelievably cool. And I had a lot of sympathy for the cultists. Like there was clearly some batshit crazy stuff going on, but there was also some really magical stuff going on.
Sure.
And they interview a bunch of the ex-cultists, and like that lawyer guy, he's so lovable and easy to just fall in love with. I at the end of the day, all humans are humans. The problem is they effed up, and there needs to be some mechanism for them to get redemption.
Yeah. And then there's also this weird, right, talking about cults, this sort of phenomenon that happens when they are proven wrong and sort of entrench further into those same sort of belief systems, right? So like after, how many doomsday cults have we had in this country? I don't know, but every time the date comes and passes, they're still in the cult the next day. They still come up with some kind of reasonable explanation as to why that particular interpretation or that particular date was incorrect, and it's still coming, and their belief system still is intact and their worldview still remains intact. It doesn't fall apart just because the one thing that was supposed to happen, didn't happen. So I think it'll, we'll see a remixed version of QAnon with some updated beliefs. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those who, I guess there probably will be some that be like, okay, that was just crazy. I need to readjust my life.
Yeah.
There's folks like Boa the Fifth Column. He has a YouTube channel. It's like he's like he's ex-military and he's real progressive. Go watch folks like that guy. You know what I mean? But like to me, the cult stuff just makes me think of like I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. You know what I mean? And there's a community called XJW, and they just help folks out, you know what I mean, that have been shunned out of the congregation, shunned out of all this stuff, to get them back on track. So stuff like that, I mean, just your peers kind of helping you get out of that is kind of one way.
All right.
Like
So
Leo
find your local
Remedy.
QAnon support group.
Yeah. X
QAnon.
QAnon. It has to be X.
Don't say actual QAnon support. Don't do that.
Yeah. No.
I doubt they have such a thing.
They don't. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure they don't. But I mean.
Parlor.
Yeah. I don't see what we have to do though, because I mean, it'd be like asking black and brown folks to say, okay, guys, we got to unify with some of those folks are racist.
Yeah.
A good majority of them, right?
Unity with Nazis.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that's up to us. Yeah. Yeah.
Nazi.
We are the world. We are the children.
Hey y'all, do we want to do a one word how we're feeling, what's going on this morning, just as a check-in before we move?
Mine is feeling good, feeling great, feeling great, feeling good.
That's not one word.
I know.
I got your point across.
Uh-huh.
It's a hyphenate.
There you go.
I'm feeling hopeful, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a weight's been lifted, but not all the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's still more. So
Yeah.
Those are my 20 words.
Mhm. Yeah.
For me, every morning is no longer as satisfying because I don't get to stretch all the way, right? Like one arm will stretch and the other does not. And I can't get my stretches in the morning, so it doesn't feel like a real morning.
Embodied,
Yes.
grounded, yes. As
Rating.
yes.
That's funny.
I'm freaked out because I keep checking the news for something exciting and it's just so boring.
Man.
I feel like a junkie who's coming down off of a crazy high.
I do too.
Dang.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now I just have COVID boredom. I'm locked in a house with crazy people and a dog.
Let's go after Ted Cruz. Let's all make a concerted effort to go after Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
The Lincoln Project has gone after Ted Cruz now.
Oh,
Jumping on that train. What about you,
Okay, so-
Vanessa?
Where were they
I-
3 years ago?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like I still have that general sense of unease and misery.
mhm.
But I can breathe a little bit. Like I have room to just breathe. Like when I get in my car to go to work and I turn on the news, because you got to do that. Now I'm like, tell me things that I will like, because it's an undoing, right? At this point, it's just undoing. All right, tell me what are you undoing today?
Yeah.
The Muslim ban, like I got in the car, I was like, oh my God. And I was just crying all the way to work like that. And it was a washing away. Like it was a, right? Because it really hadn't affected me much, but it had hit the Iranian community especially hard, the Muslim ban. Family
Mhm.
members, my cousin, for instance, in California, hasn't been able to see her parents and she's going through a divorce. It's just bad shit,
Mm.
right? Anyway.
Yeah. But are we like sorry to bring it down, but are we like affirmatively hopeful about positive good happening, or are we just hopeful about this undoing happening and relief and undoing?
Which is is this the topic of today? Is this what we're
I
talking
think
about?
so, right?
Yeah.
Like, do we get to be hopeful about this presidency? Do we get to be hopeful about the next 4 years? Do we get to engage in like positive public policy and action that we want, or is it just going to be an undoing and a meeting in the middle and lots of bipartisanship? Yeah.
I gotta tell y'all something. So yesterday, Roy and I are having a discussion. Actually started by Roy Peace. And we're saying, okay, so what is this? What are we supposed to be feeling right now? Like seriously, like right as lefty DSA members, like Bernie folks, what am I supposed to be feeling? Because I'm kind of confused. Like, right. Also, I'm feeling all this relief. Am I supposed to have this sense of urgency and be like, no, push the relief, push the good feelings? Like, what am I doing exactly? Like, so much internal conflict going on. And then as we're having this discussion, I go get acupuncture. That's what I do Saturday mornings, right? I sit down and my acupuncturist, I've known her for 15 years, for Austin folks. Y'all know this, South Austin Community Acupuncture, Wally. Wally is the person, right? So Wally and I have been friends for a long time. And we're done with acupuncture. It's time for cupping. So, he's going to put the cup on me and he's like, okay, I got to ask you a question. Like, we have political discussions. It's like, where are you at? What are you feeling right now? What are we supposed to be feeling right now? I'm like, oh my God, I can't. Asking me this question. This is what we were asking each other just this morning. So I think this is on people's minds. What are we supposed to be feeling? What's our bodily response? What's our emotional response?
What are we supposed to be feeling according to whom?
According to, if we are
Ourselves.
lefties, if we come from a position of, we are trauma response people, we are loving, we are compassionate, we are wanting at least to be grounded. We are all about the common good. We are socialists, all of this. This kind of thing is going on around us. Are we going to feel like this is yet another replay of some democratic bullshit that's going to go nowhere? Are they trying to dupe us? Or going back to our very first episode, do we actually now have the environment, the language, the sense of urgency for the administration to actually be held accountable? Are we in that moment where some run-of-the-mill democratic establishment regime has taken over? Do we actually have the power? And do they have their hands to the fire enough because of Black leadership, basically, because of all the movement in the last, 8 years, right? All the things that they have done for us, for all of us people of color, for all of us, even white folks, right? For this country, for this world. Are we now at a point where we might actually be able to are we on a roller coaster? Are we cruising? Are we finally cruising? I mean, cruising to the point where if we keep putting pressure, it might go somewhere.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
Oh.
either.
This is a genuine question.
Yeah.
Like, if
And I'll
we,
tell you.
you know, if we you know, that thing that if you trust someone, they will show up. But at the same time, we're no patsies, right? We are. So that dance of, okay, I'm hopeful, I'm watching you, bitch, but I'm hopeful type of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Where,
we can,
like, that's all the stuff that's
Yeah.
coming up for me.
for me, it's because we haven't heard like the word, Roe v. Wade, the anniversary has passed. We haven't heard the word abortion out of the mouth of the administration. They can't bring themselves to say that particular word. And then all the rhetoric from the Democratic establishment has been like, there isn't a language of accountability for the past 4 years. There's a language of sort of not acquiescence, but sort of let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving forward. We've got to work with the other side. Let's keep moving forward. We've got to appeal to the moderate middle wherever they exist, if they exist, all of that stuff. And so I don't know. I think, yeah, right. The first 100 days are a test. We'll see how things go, but I'm not that hopeful. I hear Roy Peace is similarly, I don't know, inclined,
Yes,
and then
similar.
Susie not so much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, dang, what I was gonna say, but like we look at what happened so far, and like just take the $2,000 checks for instance, right? They said Georgia, if you elect Warnock and Ossoff, those checks will go out the door. You know what I mean? That's what they ran on, and then for them to come back and say, oh no, they're just going to be 1,400. This is 1,400 in addition to sofa change and a Groupon deal and all these other things. How Democrats do, you know what I mean? And then she's like, wait, I was getting a Groupon deal, right?
It's $10
like,
Kohl's cash.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's totally different. It's the same Democratic, we're gonna do this thing. Oh, well, guys, we might not be able to get this past the Senate. Why is this going to the Senate anyway? This shouldn't this go to like the budget reconciliation process, right? Do it that way, and then now it's attached to like a bigger stimulus bill that might not even pass. So, and then instead of going right out the door, now it's in March. So this is kind of like, I'm like Ramesh, I'm not really hopeful. And I'm seeing these things, how they usually do going on, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Susie is hopeful.
I am, because first of all, we have our first Black Asian woman in office, and that alone makes me very hopeful.
Susie, your voice is really low.
Okay, here, let me do this. I usually, you know what? I'm always afraid I'm too loud. Is that
No,
better?
It's better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think he has stocked his cabinet with, moderate people. I think it looks very different. I think when you see a picture of everyone at the big table, it's not going to be a bunch of old white guys, which makes me hopeful. I think if we keep the pressure on, this is a really good time for us because we can't people like Ted Cruz and bring in someone like Beto, who is also moderate, but it's incremental steps. We can't just make these right now. We're trying to undo everything happened. And then after that happens, I feel like we can move on and continue to put the pressure on Josh Hawley and these guys. That's and I feel good about that because I know that I'm not going to give up.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. What does Roy War? What does precedent tell us? What does it take to have a genuine socialist movement?
Okay, so
how close can we get?
So first, before I go anywhere, I just want to say, for people who know me, this is going to be really weird, but for some reason, I'm in the hopeful camp. So the normal despair is not there right now. So, but here's why. So let me tell you a story.
Excellent.
So there's a few things going on for me. There's a lot of things going on for me. So first of all, if you want to remodel your house, but it's currently on fire, the first thing you ought to do is put the fire out and then go back to talking about remodeling your house. So
there you go.
So in my mind, we were on the precipice. This was the end. This was the end of free and fair elections. We've never had free and fair elections, but the close
semblance of it.
Yeah, at least there's the possibility, if there's high voter turnout, that you could get some people thrown out, right?
Yeah.
That almost ended. And on top of that, it almost ended where we were going to end up with a fascist. It was freaking 1933, 1934, and we missed it. Now, obviously, Trump is dumber than Hitler, which is bad because, for the record, everybody keeps saying Hitler was a genius. So first of all, genius is when you do the impossible. He lost, so that's not a genius. But he was actually a moron. In fact, had Hitler not been in charge, but the Germans had still tried to pull off World War II, they might have won. Hitler made one awful, stupid decision after the other, and Trump was even dumber than that guy. So this was a catastrophe. Our house was on fucking fire. The fire is out, but now's the time for realism, not optimism, not pessimism, realism. So I'm all about increments. Sweden had a revolution, 1848, along with all of Europe except for the Ottoman Empire, Great Britain, and Russia. So it's easier to just, and by the way, Sri Lanka and Brazil participated in that revolution, weirdly enough. So in 1848, there's this, I guess it's global because it was on 3 continents. There's this revolution. Sweden is probably the only country that actually won. So just for the record, and by the way, it wasn't just Sweden. It was the Kingdom of Sweden-Norway because there was one king for both kingdoms. And both went that direction. They went down that path. And for the last 73 years, Sweden and Norway have incrementally been increasing the amount of justice in their society. And it's taken them a long ass time, and they're deeply flawed, and they still have a long way to go. But they are further along than just about anybody else on the planet. I think maybe Iceland is ahead of them. And that's only because Iceland had the women revolution in the 70s, right? So for those of you who don't know what happened, the women went on strike. And it took about a week, I think, and the men just surrendered and said, whatever you want. And the women went, we want a new constitution. They drafted a new constitution. And that was it. Like Iceland instantaneously became the closest thing to utopia on the planet.
Was it like a Lysistrata? Was that
Lysistrata? Yeah. Yeah, the women just said, we're done. No more sex, no more work, no more childcare, no more nothing. Fuck you. And the men surrendered. And Iceland's amazing. Like when the economy collapsed in 2008, when the United States was sending trillions of dollars to the bankers, Iceland was putting its bankers in prison. Right? That's the right approach. You did this? Oh, you go to jail. And here we're like, oh, you need money. Here's trillions of dollars.
By the way, I might need money later.
Yeah, exactly. Lesson. So here's that's one lesson that I've learned. Another lesson I've learned is what we talked about last week, which is Grover Cleveland. We elected that guy and he just fucking backstabbed the hell out of the entire country and propped back up all the Republican goals. But we did talk about that last weekend, right? I'm not
A little bit.
remembering
but-
wrong. Okay.
No, we did.
There's another lesson that we need to look at, and that's FDR. And the house was on fire. The economy was burning to the ground. FDR comes in and he implements socialism light, right? He gives us Social Security. He gives us the FDIC. And then LBJ takes it one step further and he adds stuff like Medicare, right? That's the regime that Reagan won his presidency based on. We're going to overturn that because it's socialist. FDR didn't do that because he was a socialist. FDR didn't do it because he cared about the United States or humanity. He didn't care about anything. He was one of those people who became president for the sake of being president. He did it because he wanted to stop socialism from taking hold in the United States. This was his vaccination, right? How do you cure a disease? How do you prevent the disease? You give a little bit of it. He was inoculating us. He thought if he could get the working class just enough. Oh, unions are illegal? AFL-CIO, we're going to make all unions have to be a member of this. There's going to be serious government regulation, but they're legal now, right? As opposed to Germany, where there must be union leadership in every board for every corporation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. That's true liberation when the workers have a direct voice in the board of directors for every corporation, whereas here we have a government-regulated union system that's been spayed and neutered.
By the way, that's exactly what happened in Iran after the revolution, but it's gone. It's been destroyed because it was not good for those in power. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
So here's the thing. FDR did improve the quality of our lives. There's no doubt that we're better off because of Social Security, right? Just the fact that maybe grandpa doesn't have to live in a chicken coop and eat their leather boots when the economy tanks is a good thing. I think you'd be hard pressed to say we're better off without it, unless of course you're a Republican and you hate people and you want them to die. But what we need to do with Biden is we need to be careful that we don't fall into the FDR trap, because I think that's the trap he's laid for us. I don't think he's a Grover Cleveland. He's definitely not a Sweden. I think he's an FDR. Having said that, I think there's a really beautiful moment here that we have. And the reason is exactly for the reason Banafsha said, that there is a little bit of a leadership cadre that has formed largely because of Trump. Trump was president chemotherapy, right? He wore a mirror suit. So every time we looked at him, we saw ourselves. And he was also forcing us to manage the disease we have, or at least address the disease we have. Because Trump wasn't that bad. He killed what, 400 something thousand Americans? George Bush Jr. killed 1.3 to 2 million Iraqis. You know what I mean? Nixon killed what, 1.5 million Vietnamese, and LBJ killed like 1 million Vietnamese.
I'm just going to take a moment here. Americans and Iraqis are not equal. One American does not equal one Iraqi.
Thank you for bringing that in.
Sure.
So, I think Americans have a perspective problem with Trump. And also, Trump didn't do anything new. He just embodied what the United States is exactly. And the result was a bunch of people went, oh, that's awful. Most white liberals just want it swept back under the carpet. They just want to go back to, we're bombing brown people, we're killing black people, and I'm comfortable with it because there's a Democrat in the White House and he says the right things at the right time. That's what they want. So what we have to do is we have to put pressure on Biden and Harris and keep the pressure on through the institutions we've created. And here's why I'm hopeful. Biden has got nothing to lose. He's probably not going to make it the first 4-year term. Maybe he'll get to the second 4-year term. He literally could go out in a blaze of glory. He could decide to do the right thing. And Harris has already demonstrated her profound ability to go in the direction the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
If you'll remember, when the primary started, she sounded like Bernie Sanders. And then she went, oh, wrong. Okay, I'm going to sound more like Biden. And she switched. And the only reason is It's not because she's a scumbag. It's not because she's evil. The reason is because she needs to win. Nobody gets anything done unless they win in an electoral republic. And so what she did was she went, I'm going to give the people what they want. That's how I win. That's how I get reelected. So if we are loud enough, we might be able to nudge her in the right direction.
Yeah, but this is assuming that we are capable and empowered to nudge, right? She's getting a lot of other nudges from a lot of other directions
Like
that we
bankers.
don't see. Yeah, as apparently.
And those white liberals. Those white liberals who, when Black Lives Matter are protesting, they go, I can't stand the violence. And you're like, dude, what do you mean broken windows? They're protesting the lynching of Black men and women. And you're upset because there's a broken window?
I mean, look after the election, right? Black Lives Matter were doing voter registration and the numbers were up, and then all of a sudden after the election, we weren't really, against defund the police and these other planks that they wanted, this is a switch, you know what I mean? It's just like that. Yeah.
Well, I think that you can't just come in and make a sweeping socialist changes without having another riot at the Capitol. I mean, I think we have to take these little steps, and it's unfortunate that we've been set back so far. But as we all know from being some sort of minority, that sometimes you take a step forward and you get kicked back 5 steps. So we're just making up the 5 steps while we're trying to also. It's the analogy of the house being on fire is perfect. We can't do anything. We can't send out housewarming invitations until we build the house back up. So
to me,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, to me, the house on fire was just America. You know what I mean? We need the whole police. We need the whole fire department there, and we need you to say, okay, we need the fire department to say, okay, we have this buckets of water. We have these fire trucks to go there. The fire truck was kind of, to me, as like that $2,000 check. You know what I mean? I come back to that. They need to not push themselves back. You know what I mean? I hear what you're saying, and like taking these little incremental steps, but don't go back and say, come back a little bit just to go back on your word, because people are going to remember things like this. You know what I mean? This $2,000 check. That's a huge deal to people that are hurting right now. Huh?
2 years. So scientists have measured the American political memory. It's 2 years. So if you do something, 2 years later, they'll have forgotten, and you can just move on.
But I mean, the midterms, though, the midterms are there.
In 2 years, so it's dangerous.
We're also immobilized a little bit, right? We have a 2-party system. It's not like I can go running for some third option or some radical place on the far left or the far right in reaction to this. If I'm upset with the Dems for being not as far left as I'd want them to be, or not being as socialist as I want them to be, I don't have anywhere to run when it comes to my ballot box. If we had a parliamentary system, it'd be a little bit different, and we could put pressure on in a different kind of way.
Well, what we need is to get rid of single-member district representation and do something else, like single transferable vote or proportional representation. Then we could have a multi-party system. But as long as we have single-member district representation and gerrymandering, forget about it.
And so that begs the question, we all know what we have to do. So where do we go to do it? I mean, so if people are listening right now and they want to take the gerrymandering, on, where do we go to figure that out?
That's a great question. So
meet up at Ted Cruz's house this weekend.
The Demoblicans and the Republicrats are totally attached to the single member district representation system, because as long as it's there, there's only ever going to be 2 parties. I mean, Trump is threatening to make a 3rd party, but he'll cripple the Republicans in the process. That'll function for 2 elections.
Which is why they're actually thinking about getting rid of him at the moment, although they're backing down, it seems.
Yeah, and then Hawley will just be that guy, or Ted Cruz will just be that guy. So getting rid of him isn't the solution. What they'll do is they'll kowtow to him so that he doesn't split the party. But if he does split the party, it'll only last 2 elections, and then the Republicans will realize, oh my God, voting for the Patriot Party has crippled the Republican Party. I'm stopping that, and we go back to the 2-party system.
Or they take over the Democratic Party, because like the Lincoln Project, I mean, I don't trust them for a minute. I mean, I'm glad they're doing what they're doing, but I don't trust them. I could see them taking over the Democratic Party. It's just a bunch of moderates.
You mean
And
the
I mean,
Lincoln Park?
they've made it. Yeah, the Democratic parties, they've made it, where it's comfortable for Republicans to come in. And we saw this with, like, I'm sorry, MJ Hager. I don't know if y'all support MJ Hager, but she's basically a never Trump Republican running as a Democrat. That's what she was.
She's the embodiment of that meme that has the two Middle Eastern kids, somewhere, and then there's a drone flying, and they're like, well, at least it's a woman this time.
That's exactly right.
Oh yeah, like there's the picture of the B-52. It's dropping bombs, and then beneath it there's a B-52, and it's got the rainbow flag.
And Black Lives Matter.
Equal opportunity mass murder. It's like,
And you see the two kids sort of about to die saying, right, oh, it feels so great to be a part of history. The first.
That's exactly right.
Did you guys see the bomber meme with that was the shadow of it was over Trump playing golf?
I haven't seen that.
Iran has put I don't know if they put an official bounty on his head, but they have.
They did something, right?
They have threatened him personally, and there is an incredible picture, a meme that they created that has the shadow of a bomber right over him on his golf course playing golf, and they're like, Trump, you're on our list, kind of shit.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Fine with it.
I'm suspicious of that. Sounds like another reason to go to war with Iran and drum up the.
It does. It sounds like a.
Yeah, but you know
false
what?
flag operation.
Yeah, like the CIA has that. CIA made that in Photoshop, right? Like, okay, send this out.
You track the IP address in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah, exactly right.
I mean, at the end of the day, Trump was one of the best things to happen to the regime because he was so incompetent. Now, the JCPOA going away sucked because it hurt Iran's economy, but the regime is stronger than it ever has been. Like
ISIS is forming again. That's what I heard.
I think we should hand him over to Iran.
Well, I wanna see where we are with the question. So yeah.
What are y'all? How are we looking forward? What are you looking for from this administration? What sort of behaviors are we like on the lookout for when it comes to like a barometer of what we expect from the next 4 years, from the next 8 years, from the party going forward?
So here's a weird phenomenon in the United States. We have basically like 5 categories of presidents since the beginning. And I'm just gonna focus on one of those categories. Most of our presidents are what I call normals. They're just boring. Chester Alan Arthur, you've heard his name. You have no idea what he did. Done. Boring. Just delete. Millard Fillmore. So most of our presidents have been the normals. But there's also the X-Men. And and one of the categories in there, the sort of the extraordinary presidents are what I call innovators, or it's the presidency of innovation according to Skowronek. What the innovators are is they're the presidents who, according to Skowronek, he's a political scientist who wrote a book about presidential power. What the presidents who are innovators do is they bring in a new regime. They have an agenda. The public loves that guy. They heap love on that guy, and they cut him lots of breaks. FDR is one of the classic examples of this. FDR's policy sucked. He got don't get me wrong, I love some of his policies, like the CCC. All he needed was a P on the end, and it would have been perfect. Every time I walk down a park, and I'm like, this trail was built by the CCC. Like, yes, thank you, FDR. This is wonderful. So what
the dog the dog
when the economy in terms of fixing the economy, he didn't, but we still loved him because we saw him out there fighting hard for us, championing the cause, and we cut him all sorts of slack. We elected him to 4 terms. If it wasn't for polio, he'd still be president. We'd have figured out a cure for old age, and we would have kept him.
His head in a jar, right?
His head in a jar. We would. You laugh, but it's true.
We should have weekend at
So
Bernie.
yeah. So
if we're lucky, Biden or
Is gonna be a head in the jar president?
Harris is going to be that person.
We're gonna see.
Wait, what happened specifically with FDR? So
see.
this is one of the things that I keep just keeps popping into my head, and that's the following: when the environment is right and the stars align, people have transformations.
Yes.
It happens.
Mhm.
And so and I can't help again I have this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, did I say it
Yeah.
correctly? Okay. Situation inside me
Mhm.
where I always right here in my frontal lobe have this, okay, red blinking like what you are experiencing is the Agir Hermes, like when there was a bombers
Scud
would
attack.
come, yeah, a scud attack, or bombers are coming, they're gonna drop bombs, like
Mhm.
that's my body chemistry just generally because I grew up that way, right? And then on the other side of my frontal lobe goes la 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 la, you know, whatever, which is there's always a possibility for transformation, there's always people, you know, love, all of this, right?
We have
So
to
I
have
got
that.
this dee, 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 dee. And right now I'm really heavily going into the serotonin place
Mm.
where I just see things aligning a little bit. We have a we have a Black Asian woman. That's something. That's something heavy. We also have a grandpa with lots of, what is that hormone?
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin.
Yeah.
This is real shit,
Yeah.
y'all.
Yeah.
This is embodied understanding of what the possibilities are.
I mean,
like
we should
people
change the
are people at the
Constitution.
end of the day, they are in their bodies, and that makes a difference. And we are dealing with singular humans. So I just don't want to forget the possibility for pressure being
Mm.
applied to at this moment in history, after all the work has been done, all the work that Black folks have done, this moment is some kind of moment. That's all that just keeps coming up for
Mhm.
me. Like, this is not Pollyanna, this is not being naive, this is realism.
Yeah.
I am just noticing that I have to push back on the constant sense of doom and urgency in my fucking head. Like, I am pushing
Yes.
back against that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's on us, right, to keep that pressure up, keep that momentum up.
That's the key. No matter where you are in the process, you like Biden and Harris, you don't like Biden and Harris. If you're not putting the pressure on, like if all you're doing is on Facebook ranting and raving about how much you hate something, that's useless.
Also, I also want to say, I don't care what I personally, as a in the eyes of many folks of color, especially if they're Black, my white adjacent ass does. Black folks have already created, they have been at this for centuries. They have already created, established, are running, are pushing, they're doing their business. It's a life for them, right? It's already happening. We just have to sort of see that this is going somewhere.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for joining RPM this go around. We will check in next week with Banafsha's barometer and see which side is going off when now. But yeah, in the meantime, stay
I'm gonna
safe,
draw things on
stay
my house.
good.
I'm gonna have a green with a red. I'm gonna just
Okay.
stick it on my head.
Today's weather is.
Dang.
All right, y'all. Tune in next week. This has been Ramesh.
Are
Thank
we
you.
done?
Oh, we lost Susie.
We lost Susie.
Susie said, "Bye, bitches. I'm out of here."
All right, Susie's out.
I'm gonna stop recording.